Okay, welcome everybody to our session today. Thank you for your patience. So this is the Volunteer in Estonia event. I'm glad that you have already joined us. So this is our first event of this in this series. So I'm glad to launch it with you, and I hope you're all doing fine in this cold Estonian weather we're having today. So this session is about volunteering, what it means, what it is about in Estonia. And in a way, it has like a twofold purpose. So our first purpose with this session and with the experts we have here speaking today is that we want to talk about the concept of volunteering and how it's built up in Estonia. And then we have three speakers who represent concrete non-profit associations or foundations in Estonia, and you will have a chance to hear about the work they're doing and how volunteers have been helping them out in the past as well. I would like to introduce also my team members. So myself, I'm from the Institute of Baltic Studies. We are also a non-profit association in Tartu, an independent think tank. So I will be moderating today's session. As you can see, my name is Mart, but with me is also Robert. So Robert, if you would be so kind, please turn on your camera for a second. Robert will be moderating the chat, and please, whenever we have questions, use the chat function to ask them. As we were expecting a large attendance today, we are not using any audio questions, so all the questions will come via chat via Robert then. But please do ask questions from our speakers because this event is aimed at you. We're doing this for your benefit, not just for the sake of doing it. So please be engaged. And also with us is Helena, who is helping us with the technical details. Yes, thank you, Helena. And we have then 5 speakers. So we have Lauri from Vabaühenduste Liit. And thank you, Lauri. You can see him on the screen. We have Huko from Maarja Küla. And we have then we have Victoria from Südamete Soojus. And we have Anu from Loomus. And lastly, we have Martin, a foreign student. Great, so you've seen us all on the screen. A few last bits of information. So I already explained to you the rules of the game. So we will be mostly muted besides the speaker, as this makes it the most convenient process for us. And indeed, if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. As I mentioned already, this, and you saw in the initial slide perhaps, is that this is an event, part of a project called this Unlock Your Potential in Estonia. And in this Unlock Your Potential in Estonia project, we're doing 2 things. So one is trainings. Maybe some of you have already attended last week when we piloted these trainings, but there will be more to come starting next year. So hopefully we get to disseminate this information to you via your university mailing lists and through our own channels. And then as a second part of this project, we have these Jumpstart Your Career events. And as I already mentioned, this is the first of the kind. And indeed, you can find more about our activities in our website and in our Facebook group. So we will disseminate these via chat to you as well. So you can, after the meeting, check them out, because this is where you will get the up-to-date information. And also for today's questions, in case we do not manage to answer all of them, then the Facebook group will be the one where we will answer the unanswered questions, so to speak. So it's a good channel to attend. And after the session, we will also send you like a feedback or a feedback email, where we will also mention these things once again regarding the links. But now, Helena, can you launch the poll so we could see what our audience this past experience with volunteering is? So hopefully all of you can see this poll on the screen and you can vote. So the question is, have you volunteered in Estonia? And you have these different categories of responses. Now you should be able to see the results on your screen as well. So as you can see, most of you have not volunteered, but have been considering it. And for some of you, you're not quite sure what it means. So in this sense, it's a good result because this is exactly what we're trying to address in today's session. And I hope we can meet your expectations in this regard. But enough about the introductions. I would now ask Lauri to join me. Back on the screen. So Lauri represents Vabaühenduste Liit, and we're going to have an interview with Lauri. So Lauri, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
So tell us a bit about the Vabaühenduste Liit. What is it? What do you guys do?
As you can see in my name, in English, our organization is called NENO, which stands for Network of Estonian Non-Profit Organizations. And we are basically an advocacy organization for all the civil society and third sector organizations. So what we try to do is make sure that all the non-profit organizations and non-government organizations are working well, they have strong leaders, and also that they are good at achieving their goals, because a lot of them are very passionate and a lot of them are doing very good things, but in order to achieve bigger goals, sometimes you need to strengthen the leadership, sometimes you need to strengthen the cooperation with other similar organizations, sometimes you need to try and help them find more resources, etc., etc. So anything we can do to help empower those organizations, and through those organizations empower the civic society, we try to do. And that's including lawmaking. Sometimes just some laws in Estonia need to be changed in order to be more easier for NGOs and so on. So basically that's what our organization does.
And are all the NGOs in Estonia members of your union, or?
No, not all of the organizations. Our members are, I would say, biggest or some of the bigger advocacy organizations themselves, and some individual organizations as well. So what we try to do is we have a little bit over 100 members, and most of these members have members of their own. So none of them are individuals or just small NGOs, but yeah, our network is multiplied by our members.
Okay, but then I would jump to the key question that we also saw in the survey. As an expert in the field and working on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes advising policymakers as well, what is volunteering? How would you explain this?
Yeah, volunteering is, I think, a very simple concept. Basically, it's helping someone or some organization without getting paid for it. As my previous task in my organization, I was leading a program called Community Internship. And I thought that internship is a concept that's more familiar maybe for students, especially because you have to do internships in some organization during your studies. So as a parallel, they're very similar things. You go there, sometimes you get paid, sometimes you don't in internship, but technically you go to help out some organization and do something that is necessary or needed for them. But the key difference is when you're volunteering, your main target is to help and benefit that organization one way or the other. If you're interning, your key focus is learning. So it doesn't rule each other out, vice versa, but sometimes the focus makes all the difference. So if you're volunteering, you always want to help and give with your skills or with your time and energy.
Okay, and how would you describe the landscape of volunteering in Estonia? Is it a very common thing? What characterizes the Estonian non-profit organizations sort of community? Any?
I think if you would take the volunteering tradition in Estonia and put it into the life cycle of a person, I would say that the volunteering is maybe 5 years old. Because if you look at the other countries that are neighboring to Estonia, like the Nordic countries or Scandinavian countries, it's so normal part of life that everybody volunteers, and especially older people or middle-aged people. You can see that it's been passed on from generations, the idea that if you have time, if you have energy, or if you have the means, you always help somebody else. In Estonia, it's quite a new concept. I think volunteering has been talked about maybe for the past, well, more actively, I would say maybe the past 10 to 15 years. Of course, it has been talked about, but not so actively. And considering our republic is only 30 years old, then I think it's quite normal.
But why should one consider volunteering? Donate their own private time. What are the benefits that you see in volunteering?
I think it's a good question. It's not easy to answer that simply. Everybody has their own reasons for volunteering, and I think a lot of organizations that have volunteers, they need to probably know this, why their volunteers want to come, and why they stay and why they want to help. But mostly I would say if you want to help somebody, if you want to do something good, then I think it's a good place to start. But also that there are other side benefits. For example, if you are someone who would like to meet new people, or if you want to do some networking, it's a great place to go because you find people who are also similarly minded. They want to help, they want to be open, they want to be good citizens. But also what I've seen recently is that it's really beneficial for people who are, for example, looking for a job. Most of the time they would maybe try and find good job applications and then go on interviews. But while they're doing that, sometimes this process takes weeks or months, or for in some cases even years to find a good job. They don't want to just stand around because the key thing is not so much what your education is or what your skills are, but rather like who you know, who your friends of your friends are. And if you're volunteering, you're really expanding your network. And very often volunteers, similarly to interns when they do internship during studies, if organizations are looking for people to hire, that their own close network is first one they're going to offer the job to. And the non-profit organizations, most bigger organizations also have hired staff, so they're always looking for project leaders and people for different professions to take part.
Yeah, indeed. I think you touch upon two important elements. So what you mentioned lastly is, as non-profit associations are a common legal form of entities in Estonia, then usually they do have some paid staff as well. And it can be an option for a job opportunity as well. But of course, today we are talking about volunteering in more of a general sense as well. But even in that case, and this is my second point, I think we've seen also in our trainings and what our business sort of coaches are telling us is as well that, for CVs, it's often relevant or it's beneficial to have local references when you apply to a company in Estonia, and volunteering in an Estonian organization while you're studying and then using that reference, when you apply for a job can also go a long way in making you feel more, I don't know, trustworthy or something for the Estonian employer in this sense. I understand from the nods of your head that you agree with this more or less.
Yeah, it's a growing tendency, but yeah, I will always try to be realistic on that spot that it's still growing. I think most of the business world don't appreciate the volunteering input as much, but yeah, it shouldn't put anybody off, and definitely it has so many other benefits as well, volunteering somewhere.
And this leads me to the question, at NENO or Vabaühenduste Liit, do you also in your organization take on board volunteers?
Yes, we do. We are a small organization and we basically consist of 6 project leaders of our own. So if you're interested in volunteering for us, for example, then it would be good to know right away like what your interests are and in what field you would like to volunteer in. And yeah, it's not all the time that we are able to take volunteers, so we don't have a specific volunteering program like some other speakers will have that you will hear later. But yeah, definitely, if you're interested, NENO is a good option.
And I think this is a great chance to take the audience questions as well. So Robert, do we have some questions in the chat to Lauri?
Yes, we do. We actually have quite plenty of questions to Lauri, but so I should say I should apologize in front of everyone if we won't be able to cover all the questions or provide an answer to them. So you're more than welcome to join our Facebook group where we will try to cover these topics after the event. But one of the first questions that actually dropped was which project can you recommend from NENO in particular, and how has the COVID situation affected the NGO, which kind of overlaps the second question, which was if there isn't any online volunteering opportunities, taking into consideration the COVID situation at the moment. So basically, which projects can you recommend, and how has COVID affected your work in terms of volunteering opportunities online, let's say?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's well, it's hard to recommend a project because it all comes down to what your interests are and what kinds of things you would like to do. In my opinion, or as much as I've seen, most NGOs in Estonia are willing to take volunteers' help. So once you find a field that you would like to help in, like for example, is it nature? Is it animals? Is it LGBT? Is it human rights? Social enterprises, whatever the field is that interests you. In all of these fields, you can find a very good and active organization, I'm sure. And if you write to them, explain what you would like to do, or what previous experience you have, or what skills do you think you have, I'm sure they will be able to implement your skills. But I do recommend, if you're thinking about this, then what very often happens is that you introduce yourself, or let's say a volunteer comes in and says that I would like to do something, I don't really care what. It's usually very difficult. If you don't have a volunteering program developed, then it's really difficult to come up with things to do for volunteers. But if you approach an organization with some ideas already, for example, you would like to translate their website, or you would like to, I don't know, conduct a survey or make photographs for them, or whatever it is, then you can suggest that right away concerning your skills or previous experience. But the other side of the question, if I can answer about the COVID, then of course, a lot of the NGOs have moved into home offices, similarly to companies and now schools again. But at the same time, most of the activities can be moved online as well. So if you're a volunteer, we actually were supposed to have a Zoom meeting with a potential volunteer just today, which just got postponed to beginning of next week. But yeah, it's a good example of how COVID doesn't really stop volunteering.
Mm-hmm. Which means that everyone's more than encouraged to kind of try volunteering even in these hard times. But there's a second bunch of questions actually, which kind of overlaps with something you've been talking about, is if there is any particular industries that Nino is working with, and or like how broad is the activity basis of Nino. That was the second. There are several questions regarding this as well.
We are, I think, as broad as it can be. So as I explained, we try to. Well, our goal is creating active citizens, and citizens who are like entrepreneurial, not necessarily in a business sense, but they're willing to be active in their field, go voting, they go volunteering, they participate in community activities, different things that make an active and good citizens. So in any way we can support that, we do. And as we know, civic society or third sector also includes not just like policies and human rights and advocacy, but also sports, culture, and those kinds of things. Sports and culture are quite big areas and doesn't necessarily need organization like us to help them, but there's a lot of overlap, especially in policy making.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Yeah, there's no more questions in the chat.
Great, thank you for this opportunity to share, and hopefully we will see you again in the future.
Yes, and thank you, Lauri. And we also shared the Hea Kodanik or the Good Citizen portal in the chat, which leads you to Neno and actually also other activities related to volunteering in Estonia. And at the end of the session, there's another link we can also share with you that also leads you to more information about volunteering opportunities in Estonia and how to set up yourself as a volunteer. So we will get to that as well. But once again, thank you, Lauri, for being with us today, and we will move on with our program. Our next speaker will be from Maarja Küla Foundation, and there's a nice video to introduce our next speaker. So I'm gonna play you this nice little video.
In this profession before to study it. And one guy, so Estonian man, gave me an answer. It was Huko. And he said, "Oh, Celine, we wait for you. Come here." So I went. And now I'm here in Maarja Village. It's an incredible place. When I arrived in this place, I was so, I don't know, like a little girl from France. I already traveled, but not so much. And I arrived in this place, I didn't know anybody. And I was just so welcome, like just everything was so easy. I didn't speak any English when I came, but it was just so easy to be in contact with people, to communicate and to be accepted. So it was just incredible how, I don't know, I didn't wait in this kind of stuff.
I would like to introduce Huko, and please, Helena, can you share the screen with the slides as well?
Hello, everybody. My name is Huko, and I have actually myself being also a volunteer. First time it was 23 years ago when I was in United States of America for a summer. And then the second time when I went abroad as a volunteer was 1999, when me and my girlfriend just graduated University of Tartu, and then we went to live to London, and we lived with people with learning disability there. We shared their like our life there, and it was quite good. The presentation is called Harry Potter and being volunteer in the foundation of Maarja Village. I know that most of you are students, and this presentation name is exactly for marketing reasons, because everything you will get more attention when you start your presentation or your dissertation or your diploma work in university, whatever, with the words Harry Potter and. So I warmly suggest you to do it. But first, I would like to show you the map, which is number 2. This is the red point there, is where Maarja Village is situating. So it's basically, we have 2 different locations of our foundation. We work with people with disability, but this one is in the middle of the forest. So basically we have created a village, like a normal Estonian village, where the local bus goes through from Põlva to Tartu, kind of public transportation goes through. And this is the southeast from Tartu, about 50 kilometers. So number 3 slide, please. What is Maarja Village? Yes, we are a foundation. We were established almost 20 years ago by parents and teachers of Tartu Maarja School. And Tartu Maarja School was the place where intellectually disabled children studied. In the Maarja Village, we do not have any children, but or everybody there, we are grown-ups. Our mission is basically to support intellectually disabled persons' right to a normal life. Like, what is normal life? It's about making as many choices as you can about your own life, being this normal member of society, having family, feeling love, feeling friendships. But in the Maarja Village, then we have this kind of different areas of support, like a living area. We have created living places for about 60 people with learning disability, 20 of them in Tartu and 40 of them in this forest place in the Maarja Village. We also have a lot of opportunities created for working, for training, and for rehabilitation, and for free time. We try, like in our our mission is to support the people. So we believe that independence is the key. So the most independently people can do their stuff, the more they learn and the more people develop. So making mistakes is allowed. And also, of course, we try to live in the village, but also live outside of the village and work also outside of the village, and our workers then give disabled people support in the actual working places as well. Yes, wow, I almost got it all. So slide number 4, please. This is one photo. I was asked to show some photos also, but I am so bad in collecting photos and stuff, so I have just a small number of photos here. This is a photo from our village. It shows this kind of a little bit about our lifestyle, maybe, hopefully. And next page, please. Number 5. So what is voluntary work in Maarja Village means? Sometimes, like this is concerning now people who live already in Estonia. So some different organizations come to work in the Maarja Village to do some everyday work, like household works or working outside, maybe cutting some trees or something like that. Basically, Maarja Village was born 20 years ago this way, that all the preparatory works for the village were made basically by the volunteers. So people who came to create the village, they didn't get any kind of money. They were not getting any salaries. So we can say that hundreds of thousands of voluntary work has been made to create Maarja Village. And so these different organizations sometimes come to our help also during today, or not today, but even this year, yes. Some local people help with different kind of works and opportunities. For example, when some old lady in the countryside has a lot of apples in the apple tree and she has nothing to do with these apples, then she calls us and says, come with your people and, and take those apples and make what you want with these apples. I give them for free to you. Or another example that maybe some kind of worker from the PR company. We have one friend of our village who works at the PR company, and he has suggested us already almost 20 years, like what kind of PR strategy we should use when we go to the media or stuff like that. And this is also that like some people donate their free time and expertise. And also, if you'd like the next slide, then you can see that there are, this is a concert, this kind of advertisement. We had this tradition already 15 years that Estonian actors came together once or twice a year during the Christmas time, and or actually it happened during the November, and they sang Estonian popular songs in the biggest theaters of Estonia, and it was also then recorded, and people during the Christmas time were able to enjoy those things or those concerts from TV. So this is what usually Estonian people have been done as a volunteers in Maarja Village. But the next page, please. Since 2004, we have welcomed long-term volunteers from different countries in the village. Even today, as I speak, we have 4 volunteers from Germany at the moment working in the village, 1 volunteer from Russia, from Siberia, 1 volunteer from Azerbaijan, and 1 volunteer from Poland. And we are expecting, in January, as it's seen also here, we expect that there will be a volunteer from Spain coming here. And all, we have had, when the Spanish girl is coming, then in 16 years, we have had then 101 long-term volunteers. They also include the long-term practicants who have graduated already their university or something, or this higher education facility, and they have done so long practical field work, maybe 2 months or 6 months or even a year they have done in Maarja Village. So 15 countries, most of people from Germany, but when you take some exotic countries, then also Brazil and Turkey, and but mostly people are coming from central part of Europe. And there is also this link to this video that was before my presentation. So next page, please. So if you want, if you think about it, what are the perspectives of voluntary work in the village as a volunteer, then we can take it from 2 different point of views. For example, from volunteer point of view, or from the organization, or from the village's point of view. And I think that from volunteers' point of view, this being a long-term volunteer in Maarja Village itself, it's already that when you come for a volunteer year, you explore the world, you explore yourself. This is actually what is volunteerism. I think the first word that comes to my mind is adventure. So basically, you are going to hop in to the unknown. And yes, some people think it's very important that they have to know precisely what is going on there in the place where they are going. But there are some people also who just select Estonia in the middle of the forest. First stop after 12 kilometers, okay, I go. So it's also about creating opportunities, because when you come to volunteer, then it means that you don't have to have this expertise before. Like, we welcome people who has had no connection whatsoever with disabled persons, and also we have welcome people who have like learned it like 6 years social work or something like that. So for us, it really doesn't matter so much. What also is like perspectives to go to voluntary work, especially in Estonia, is to learn the very different new things, and especially Estonian language. Like, all our volunteers are participating in the language course in Tartu, Estonian language course, and it's quite wild to study a language that in the world maybe there are 1 million speakers. It's a kind of secret language, and it has been found exciting. But also, Maarja Village is a live-in community. So basically, you live in the village with the people with learning disability, and same time you have different workers in the village and also different volunteers from different countries. So you basically make new friends for a life. And what village point of view is that also this new people, this gives a lot of energy to the village, but also growth of organization, because all the time you will meet some kind of situations when you learn, or there are some problems or some choice concerning volunteers, and also volunteers often have some kind of proposals that let's do this, let's do that. So this gives an organization a growth needed. It certainly helps in everyday life, because the next slide we will see a little bit what volunteers are exactly doing in the Maarja village. Like it's about the life and task in the village. So basically, volunteers live in the old house together. They are members of our community there, and their main task is to work daily with our inhabitants, and basically to do things together. Now the slides are going somewhere, I don't know. Look, that's the one. And so everyday life means everything. It means it can mean from the morning exercises and hygiene until working, studying, free time, chat, and then sometimes even go to bed, some bedtime stories or something like that. So it's basically people live their life in the village. So I think there's one more page, no? Yes. And this is my short presentation. And volunteers find us from different way. Like, for example, there is a Erasmus. It was used to call Erasmus Plus project. Now it's called Solidary Corps. And volunteers who come via that organizations, they first contact our coordinating organization. But also volunteers have come to Maarja village just like that. For example, in May, one Polish girl who lives in Estonia wrote to me, and now she's coming 2 times per week. One day in the week, she's working in our garden and doing some workshop stuff. And then second day, she's doing films and photos, because she's a professional documentalist, like a movie maker. So she's with us like 2 days per week, and she came just like that, without any project, just wrote me, and now she's there. But also we have a close connections with one organization in Germany that sends us volunteers when we ask, like, do you have some volunteers to send? And that's all from me.
Thank you, Huko. And Robert, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, there were several questions. Thank you for the presentation. And I will just read out some of them. There were 2 questions regarding if there are opportunities for non-Estonian language speakers. And if I'm correct, then yes, there are. Because yes, as Huko, you mentioned, you have several volunteers who don't speak any Estonian at all, right?
Yes. Usually people, we have long-term volunteers also, in that sense that during that time, like where they are in the village, like minimum 6 months, but 12 months is normal that they go to language course, but also this basic communication they will learn in the village in 1 month or 2 months.
That's really good. There is another question which asks, how can we make a living there? I'm not sure about that because this is a volunteering, right?
Yes, no money. Sorry.
But volunteers are provided some place to live, right? And all this.
Yes, it's we provide food, all the food they can eat, or volunteers can eat, and also rooms to live, basically. At the moment, we have we are full, but it doesn't hurt to write me, like sometimes to ask if there's a place just to come to visit. Unfortunately, at the moment, like a few days ago, last Friday, I think we decided that we will not have many visitors in the village while this COVID is so high at the moment. But I think it will be over in 1 or 2 months. So,
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Our website is rubbish. I just realized I have to work with our website more.
No, but today you were all clear with your presentation, and indeed we will share again. I mean, people can see the slides in the recording afterwards and can see the videos, and the information will be there. So yeah, I mean, it sounds exciting. You have a lot of experience with volunteers, a long history of them coming, often many at the same time. So indeed, if this is a topic that interests somebody, as an activity to do after your studies in Estonia or returning, then you can contact Huko and see if something can be worked out. Okay, but then thank you, Huko. We will go on with the program.
Bye-bye.
Bye. There were some questions that we didn't manage to answer yet in the chat, and we will do that later on in our Facebook group, or we will get back to you in the email after this event. There was one very relevant question about the visa, and indeed, I personally do not have an immediate answer to this. We will have to get back to you. I think it was Adi who asked us what are the concrete elements of that. But there is no issue for volunteering while studying in Estonia, as long as, of course, it doesn't disrupt your normal study process. It's an extracurricular activity from your free time that can have benefits both for your life in general or for your career options. But now let's go on. I would like to invite, and thank you, Robert, I would like to invite Victoria to join us on the screen.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Mart.
Hello, we can see you and hear you. And you have slides as well. Can you try sharing your screen? Initially, I was also planning to introduce you. So everybody, this is Victoria. And as you can see from the screen, representing the non-profit association Südamete Soojus, which can then be translated to warmth of hearts. That deals in a bit of a different field. So Victoria, the floor is yours. Tell us about what you do.
Okay, hello everyone. It is very nice to see that you could find some time at this evening, and thank you, Huko, for such an inspiring presentation. Now I also have that joy to go and to be a volunteer in Maarja Küla. So I've been volunteering myself for the last 10 years, and for the last 7 years I've been volunteering for the Südamete Soojus, or in English, Warmth of Hearts. And this not-profit organization was launched in 2013, and it's working for 7 years, and it was launched in the east part of Estonia, Ida-Virumaa, by two beautiful, warm-hearted ladies, Anna Tõnisar and Kristina Kask. So our motto is that we try to unite those people who need help with those people who want to help other people. So we are an organization which is trying to find that golden middle. And I would like to talk about our activity. We have I divided my presentation into two parts. So first part, I will be talking about the annual projects that we are annually doing. And the second part, I will be talking about the projects that we are doing on almost on the daily, weekly, monthly basis. So first annual project that we actually started our activity from, we started to help the orphanage, which is situated in Südamete in the east part of Estonia, where the two founder ladies were coming from. So from the beginning till now on, we are doing the educational projects and fun events for the kids from that orphanage house. And frankly speaking, I would see that how kids grew up and how nicely and warmly hearted they became, because we are more than 50 volunteers in our organization. We are trying to really show another part of life, because actually our practice shows that kids in the orphanage, when they come out at the age of 18, they, frankly speaking, don't know how to live separately. So they don't know how to be independent. So we are trying to educate them with our own lives, with inspirations, how to do it independently. The second very interesting project that we are running, and it is an annual project, it is called Inkpot, or charity concert. So it is a target aid, and we are raising funds for that. We are inviting Estonian artists, musicians to make a concert. So and when people are coming to the concert, so they are paying some funds, and at the end we are sending that fund for the target either person or organization. For example, for the last time we have raised funds for one special needs school called Vivere with the disabled kids. So we have raised quite a nice amount of money for that, and we are doing it for the last 5 years. Besides that, I am very happy to talk about the very special day for the moms who are having disabled kids, and moms who are single, or moms from the very large families. So we're doing a kind of beauty days for them to feel relaxed, to feel that they are beautiful, that they can have some time for themselves. It is very important. And the last thing that I want to talk about, that regarding our annual projects, we have the Lawyers' Day as well. So everyone who is in need can have the lawyers' help once a month. So it is also, we have the volunteers who are doing it. Regarding the Beauty Day, also we have volunteers who are among hairdressers or nail designers, or I don't know, spa designers, so that they can make it. And regarding the ongoing projects that we are, for example, running for the moment, we all know that it is Christmas time, before the Christmas time, and the kids from the orphanage or children from the hospital, or women from the disabilities unit, everyone is waiting for some miracle to happen. So we are organizing the presents for those people. From time to time, I should say that kids from poor families, they might not even receive any gift. So we are trying to unite those people who want to give that precious gift to the kids, or to the lady, or to the man, whomever needs it. So we are doing it at the moment. And also we also have that case as targeted aid. So we receive few letters from people that are in a very deep, that have some kind of either disease and they need money for that, and that disease cannot be cured in Estonia. So we are also trying to raise funds for that. For the last time, I've been managing one project with a lady who had very serious problems, and we raised funds for her, and hopefully she can go. Unfortunately, the aid can be given to her only in Russia, so we raised some sum of money that she could go there and get that aid. And one of the projects that I'm very happy about is that online TV program that we have launched a few years ago. We found out that it is a few, actually not even a few, there are no organizations which are talking about the volunteer job publicly. So we made that TV program called Arbor, or Lehtla in Estonian, or Besiedka in Russian. So we are inviting famous people, musicians, politicians, or just volunteers who are also very famous for us. Come and join us, and we are trying to raise the awareness of the necessity of that volunteer job. So yeah, here are some photos from our enormous amount of projects that you can see here. And unfortunately, I had only to do a few slides, so I have put some photos on that slide. So I could not put more. Yeah, if you have, if you feel that you would like to help people, or you know that there is a person in need, please contact us. We will be very happy to share that help, or to help. So you are very welcome.
Thank you, Victoria, for the nice presentation. I think you can stop sharing the screen.
Okay.
But I do have a question from my side this time to you directly, because you mentioned in the beginning that you have been volunteering yourself for over 10 years. So yeah. What makes you want to volunteer?
Oh, very good question. First of all, I love people. I love talking to people, and I love to make people happy. So when I was for a long time working in other countries, and when I came back to Estonia, I felt myself that I need to give to my homeland something. So I went to kodanikukoolitus for training. So I was doing the training for the newcomers, doing that volunteering job. So it was kind of the will of my heart. That's it.
And I think this highlights a very important element of volunteering, that often it is a cause that's dear to your heart, and then you do it as an extra out of your own time to help some people or some cause or some organization. And it's nice to have people like you around, Victoria. Robert, do you have any questions from your side or from the chat?
I have several questions from my side. Thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting and engaging, but my question would be actually from the perspective of different volunteers and different students in Estonia. Is there any particular place where the volunteering takes place? For example, if students are from Narva or from Pärnu, or from Tartu, or from Tallinn, how is this gonna work out, for example?
So we have few projects going on in different cities. For example, for the moment, we have covered Tallinn, Sillamäe, Kohtla-Järve, Jõhvi. So you can see almost not the almost, but big part of the east part of Estonia. As I mentioned, that the founder lady is coming from east part, so she really wanted to make that region more developed. and she found that people from that region need more help. So if the volunteer, a student volunteer, would like to do something in that part, he or she can contact me or Anna, and we will find where to engage the person. Definitely, we will need that help.
All right, that's good. And my second question was actually related to languages. As I know, a lot of students that I personally met as well are from Narva College, and they speak Russian. So I understand that if I'm correct, then several projects are, the working language of several projects is Russian, right? So which languages do you use actually in volunteering?
Thank you, Robert. Yes, we are mostly doing the projects in Russian, but that's because the Russian-speaking people are coming to us. But we also make the project with Estonian speaking people, and so far we did not have any English speakers. And before going to make the presentation, me and Anna, we were trying to find out how can we help. And the thing that I came up with, that we have that orphanage in Südamete, where there are absolutely different age of kids, and maybe like doing online Skype English lessons for them. It would be also very great. I have one boy whom I'm kind of, we call it, I'm helping him to understand what does he want in life, you know, kind of being his not tutor, assistant, I would say tutor. So I know him for the last 7 years, and he was telling that yeah, he would like to have some English speakers among his friends. So that's also a question which can be considered.
Yeah, thank you. That kind of answers the third, actually, the one of the questions that popped up in the chat, if you're accepting English-speaking volunteers.
Yeah. Good. We are very happy. Welcome.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add, Victoria, at the end of the presentation? Some last words from your side?
Actually, I would like kind of encourage people who for the moment did not face with volunteering job. I really encourage you to start it. You will feel so much better that you will never end up. So you will just continue with that. You have just to start. So start, please.
Well, thank you, Victoria. That's a very positive message. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Bye.
And we're going on with our program, getting our third speaker representing a non-profit association. So we have Anu from Loomus, and this is a topic about animal welfare advocacy, if I can put it like this. And Anu, can you also share your screen?
Yes. I'm representing Loomus, which is an animal advocacy organization. I have been here for 2 years. I also started as an intern, but I've worked in animal advocacy over 5 years now, mostly as a volunteer. A little bit about Loomus. Loomus is an animal advocacy organization. We represent animals' natural rights and well-being in policymaking and public awareness. Loomus was created mostly as a lobby organization because in 2014 there were a lot of people, especially young people, doing a lot of good things for animals, but the thing that was missing was the more official or formal way of doing things. So Loomus was created as a lobby organization to work with politicians and different government entities. The main topics, when Loomus was created, the main topics were fur farming and animals in entertainment. For example, Using wild animals in entertainment is banned in Estonia thanks to Loomus. So you won't see any lions or bears in circuses in Estonia. And other topics are veganism, fish, and we have a very new, very interesting topic, animal-friendly beauty, which we launched last week. So those are the main things we are working on at this point. And volunteering in Loomus, we have about 90 members and volunteers here. Not everybody is very active, but we do have a lot of people, and we mostly work online, especially this year. And we use just basic tools like Skype and email and Facebook. And we also have a Facebook group for our volunteers, which is mostly in Estonian, but most people do speak English quite well. So it's always people find a way if they need to. I also added some examples what our volunteers do in Loomus, and I will talk about a few of those on next slides. First of all, IT. This is a topic we always need help in, mostly web page management and creating like special pages like petitions, campaigns, events, and also different IT solutions like security or email servers and things like that. And in IT, we actually have had some volunteers from different countries. Last year, we had a volunteer from Lithuania who helped us with one of our programs webpage. And at the moment, we have a new volunteer from Sweden who also helps us in IT. Secondly, videos and editing other materials. For example, we have a video blog where politicians explain their views on fur farming, and volunteers help to edit those and film. This year, most of the videos are made on Skype, but hopefully next year we can do them face-to-face. And redesigning different materials. We have a lot of international partners in Europe and all over the world. And we have all kinds of different campaigns that we need to redesign all the materials and redo them in Estonian. And often we need to use like different programs that we don't really know how to use, and volunteers usually can help us. And vegan recipes and events, which I think is the most fun way to help. We have a lot of volunteers who like to find new recipes, try them out, maybe create their own. A lot of volunteers help with food photography and testing different products. And also volunteers help to organize events. Usually we have quite a lot of events like movie nights and potlucks and lectures. This year, not so much, but hopefully next year. And volunteers also help to organize and prepare food for those events. And a little bit about volunteering again, who we are looking for, mostly proactive and reliable people. That means people who are eager to learn, and they show initiative to actually help and learn themselves, and reliable in a way that they just do what they promise to do. And also, as the field of advocacy, and not only in the animal advocacy in general, is quite stressful sometimes, and people are very passionate and sometimes even emotional, then it's always important to keep an open mind when communicating with other people. And I will note that we don't expect new volunteers to be vegan or know a lot about animal advocacy, because most of our new volunteers don't actually know that much, but they are eager to learn. And for our volunteers, we have a little thing called Volunteer Academy. It's basically like an online course we created to help new volunteers to learn more about animal advocacy. We also explain our point of views, and everybody has a chance to give feedback and ask for additional information. And the Volunteer Academy actually is partly in English, because a lot of video materials are in English, and because most people in Estonia do understand English quite well, then we don't really need to feel the need to translate those. So it's even if you don't speak Estonian, it's still a good thing to have. And we organize events for volunteers. This year we had big plans, but most of those we had to cancel or move online. And at the moment we are doing movie and discussion nights for volunteers almost weekly. So that's an interesting thing to be part of too. And I would like to say thank you. And I added also our webpage, where there is a new volunteer questionnaire. It's also in English, so you can fill it out in English. You don't have to know Estonian. And I also added my email address if you have any more questions.
Thank you, Anu. And it's very good to know that there's this very concrete link where people can go and apply to volunteer with you. And yeah, it was nice to see your very gorgeous slides and get a very concrete overview of what Loomus does. Robert, do we have any questions?
I have one question actually, which is very similar to the question I asked previously. Where will the volunteering mainly take place? Like, is there a particular city or place where you operate? If we take into consideration the students from Narva, Pärnu, for example, Tallinn, Tartu, and so on.
Well, we mostly we work online, but most of our volunteers are in Tallinn. But we also have a lot of volunteers in Tartu. But also we have volunteers like in England, and some are like in Sweden, and so it doesn't really matter. If you can do online, you can do it online, then it's fine. It doesn't really matter where you are.
Mm-hmm. All right. And yeah, you've mentioned that volunteers are not, there's no expectations in terms of who can actually be volunteer, just open-mindedness, right? Because there's one question here regarding, I think it's more of a fun, regarding being vegan once you become volunteer.
Well, most volunteers do, because usually when they come here, it's people. A lot of people are interested in it, and maybe they are in this like moving towards it. But
So
not everybody. You don't.
So
have
you say their mindset changes in the progress of volunteering. Okay, that's interesting. There are some questions regarding links. We just can remind everyone that all the links will be, after the event, all the links will be shared on Facebook as well. And if you really want, you can just drop us an email. Personally, I will send you all the links by email as well. So that's fine. You will get all the information later on as well.
I can also ask Anu, because you have been volunteering with Loomus for 2 years. What makes you want to volunteer?
Well, I started actually volunteering in a cat shelter because I just felt like they just needed help. And it's not really that I always like to do it. It's more like I feel like somebody has to do it, and then somebody can be me. So that's how I started. And then I just wanted to do something more. And then I ended up here. But I still volunteer in cat shelter too.
And what it's like to, as a volunteer, do you feel that you're somehow experiencing work life and private life differently than that? Do you have this segment in your sort of, it's a part of your everyday activity?
Well, at Loomus, I'm employed in Loomus at the moment, and it is a little bit different because it's really hard to like stop working in the evening. It's sometimes really hard, but you have to find the balance between.
Yeah, but it's a great story, I think, in your personal case, where there was again a topic at hand that was dear to you. You went to the cat shelters, and this moved on to actually now working in Loomus to further deal with this issue that's close to you. So I think it's a good example of what volunteering sort of is, or what we mean by it when we talk about volunteering, and what is the impact it can have on your life or on your career potentially as well.
Yeah.
Anything that you would like to mention or emphasize once more?
Well, I don't really know, but it's even if you don't want to volunteer at Loomus, I think everybody should find a way they can help other people or animals or somebody. There are so many different ways to help in Estonia.
Yeah, I think that's a good message. I'll put it out there. So thank you, Anu, for your lovely presentation, and we will move on to our last speaker. So Martin, if you can join me on screen.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hey Martin, so to introduce you to the others, you are a foreign student currently studying in Estonia, in TalTech, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so in Tallinn, and you are originally from?
Ecuador.
Ecuador, yeah. So, and what are you studying?
So I arrived to Estonia to pursue a bachelor's degree in politics and governance, and I graduated from that last year. And right now I'm doing a master's degree in e-governance technologies and services while I'm also working full-time.
So you're studying and working full-time, and you have volunteered in the past, or are you still volunteering?
Well, I still volunteer every now and then, so yeah.
So tell us a bit about this. So where have you volunteered?
So whenever I arrived, I got in contact with this organization called Mondo MTÜ, which is the biggest Estonian nonprofit organization. And they have 3 main areas of work, which happen to be really interesting for me, all of them. The first one would be global education, humanitarian aid, and sustainable development.
And how long were you in Mondo, or have you been there now?
Well, I've been part of a project that happens annually, and it has happened the 3 years that I have been here. But I also was working with them as an intern. And yeah, so it's been since I arrived to Estonia until now.
And did you know about Mondo before you came here, or you found out once you arrived?
Whenever I arrived, they invited me to an event. And because I really liked whatever they were doing, I just approached the organizers and I said, hey, I really like what you do. And if you need any help, I would like to just count me in, and here's my contact. So, yeah.
And do they have also do they have a lot of interns and foreign interns? Do they have a dedicated program? Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, because it's a big organization, well, as big as Estonian organizations get. They have a lot of international people, and it's a really cool team. Like I would say, in every area, there's not only international people, but really open-minded Estonians, and it's a really cool organization in that way.
Well, that's great. But then maybe I can ask, why did you decide to volunteer? I mean, studying, either in bachelor's or in master's is already quite time-consuming, exhaustive. And sometimes people prefer to go and find a job instead to, earn their living while studying. So why did you pick up volunteering? What was the sort of spark that initiated this?
So the project I've been working on is something that I've been passionate about since I'm 14. And whenever I saw that this organization is doing something similar, I just wanted to be part of it. So we have this event called the Est Moon, which is the Estonian model of United Nations, that gathers students from all around the world. And we bring them to Estonia and we simulate the United Nations. So it's just a really cool space for international people to get together and discuss international relations and the problems in the world in general.
And what would you say are the experiences, I mean, the benefits of this experience from volunteering at Mondo? Are there benefits to volunteering in Mondo, or volunteering in general, in your opinion? Yeah,
for sure. I think there's a lot of experience that you get that you don't formally get in like formal education. For example, how to do the logistics of a project, or how to communicate with people. So it's the kind of things that you don't necessarily learn at university or at school, but you need to learn by being there, by being with people and creating projects. So in that way, it has helped me a lot to gather this kind of information that I wouldn't possibly get otherwise.
And would you say it also somehow supports your studies, or is it linked with your studies? I mean, the Model UN seems to be quite directly related to your bachelor studies in governance and politics, right?
Yeah, it's highly related to my bachelor, but also there was some other things that I did that I didn't thought would be related that much to my bachelor, but in the end they kind of were. For example, we had a project where we introduced the foreign societies into Estonian communities. So we were traveling around Estonia with Syrian refugees and introducing their culture and their cuisine to little communities of Estonians that literally have never seen anyone from outside of their country. So it was like really interesting. And I learned how to, we were using VR headsets to show them how living outside of Estonia is. So that was really interesting to see the reaction of Estonians.
Yeah, that seems like a fascinating project.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought for a second now, but so you would say that it's sort of, it has like built upon your studies, but then also supports your studies, and it's like a nice synchronization, right? So I think in a way it links back to what Anu was showing on her slides when they talked about opportunities to either do some IT help to the organization or some design help. That there are, when we talk about volunteering, it's also potential to sort of polish some of the skills related to your studies. If you help to set up a web page and you are learning web development or some IT things, it might link to that. Or if you're a promising chef and you do vegan recipes for them, and in your case it was very directly related to what you're learning, and then you do the Model UN and do these other integration projects. So I think this is an element that we haven't yet emphasized today, but is also relevant for the audience, for the other students to think about.
Yeah, I think it opens a lot of doors for you that you never even thought could happen, but because you volunteer, because you're being there just because you want to, you're up for doing a lot of things that you didn't think you would in the beginning. So yeah, that's a cool thing about volunteering.
What about like what about network building? I mean, often as coming as a foreign student to Estonia, it might be, well, there might be two things. One is that you end up being in a group of only foreign students, being in a dormitory for only foreign students, and it's a very maybe one type of community. And the other case is that it might be sometimes hard to reach out either to Estonian fellow students or Estonians. So do you feel that, has this also made it easier for you to sort of relate with the locals or to network in relevant, to get relevant context for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's a really important part of volunteering is creating your network and getting yourself known, and for a lot of organizations to know what kind of skills you have and what can you add for them. So I would say that in my LinkedIn, probably 30% of the people that are in my contacts, I probably know them because of Mondo. So it has definitely worked to enlarge my network in Estonia.
And has it played any role in finding your job, or is that completely unrelated?
No, that's completely unrelated. But I would say that I met some really incredible people while volunteering. For example, I had the opportunity to meet the ambassador of Japan because of an event of Mondo. I also got to know the Estonian ambassador to South Korea. So I just get to know really important and cool people and get to exchange information that I couldn't otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, this is, when I was a student, I was in a similar sort of organization where we went to these events as a volunteering perspective. And I think it is, at least in the field of politics and governance, it's a good way to meet these interesting people and to get like thoughts for your own research papers in school, and potentially future employers can pop up in these meetings and through these LinkedIn networks. So I think it touches on a good point. But personally, what would be your recommendations for students who are considering volunteering?
I would say definitely find out something that passionates you. And no matter what it is, as Lauri said in the beginning, if it's environment, LGBT rights, etc., just find something that you really enjoy and you really want to work on, and you feel that the world needs to have better people working on it, and just start engaging yourself, even if you're not confident enough to go to the organizing team or whatever. Just to start going to their events, get to know the organization better, and whenever you feel confident enough to go there and just explain what you can add and what you can do for the organization, just say that you will be available for them.
I think that's good advice, because as you saw in the beginning of the poll, a lot of our audience members were considering volunteering but are not volunteering yet. So all sort of this type of advice is very useful. I would also ask Robert to join us and to see if there are any other questions we can address.
Yeah, well, before I actually ask questions, I would like to say myself that the thing that you're talking about, Mondo, actually, I can relate to this, because several years ago, I mean, years and years ago, I was also taking part in organizing United Nations in Estonia. And this actually proves the point that you actually have to try different opportunities, because you never know how they end up going for you. So yeah, I did Model UN, and then suddenly they just invited me to represent Estonia at the International MUN Summer Camp, which was an amazing opportunity that I took part in. I couldn't even imagine that I would be able to take part in it before I actually joined this MUN session. But yeah, that's just a short story. I wanted to ask you a question, actually. If there is the best and the worst thing about volunteering, what would they be from your perspective?
That's a hard question. It's hard to find something negative, in my opinion. It's probably getting to solve issues, but in the end, there's a big reward. Like whenever you're stressed, like there has been many cases that we have been really stressed about organizing our project. For example, with COVID, we had like a 3 months thing that we didn't know what would happen. But in the end, we managed to do it somehow, and it was like a big reward. So maybe just the stress of solving problems. But the best part of it is just getting to feel that you are doing something that you're passionate about, and you feel that you're helping the world to get to a better place.
Yeah, that's a very good answer in this sense. There's also a question asking what's the project that you're working on, which I presume is the question, what are you currently volunteering in, or what are you currently up to?
Right now, we just had the event through Zoom, so we are on a pause at the moment. But I mostly worked in the global education department of volunteering, the global education department of Mondo. Whenever I was an intern, I also had part with the other sections of Mondo, but that would be it for now.
Mm-hmm. And there was also one person actually wrote in the chat saying that they would like to volunteer for Mondo, and they would be ready to assist if there is any need in volunteers in Mondo, and how should they contact you?
I think there's always a need in organizations for people to find more hands to work. So the first thing I would recommend is going to the Mondo website, because they have a really well done website that you can go through and check their current projects and like their volunteering positions, and just get engaged and start going to their events. I would recommend that.
Yeah. From my side, I just dropped the link to the chat for everyone. And once again, remind everyone that all the links and all the contacts of people or the organizations that were present today will be published on Facebook after the event.
Well, thank you, Robert. Yeah. And thank you, Martin. I think it was great to have you here today as somebody who actually volunteers and is also a student in Estonia. So I hope your example also has inspired others to think about how it can relate to their studies, to building their network, and so on. So thank you for this interview.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was great to be here.
Yeah, thanks. And now I would like to throw in another poll for our audience. So Helena, could you please share a poll? So hopefully you see the poll on your screens. And the question is, so we are now wrapping up our event. What are your thoughts after this? But I will close the poll now and share the results with you. So as you can see, the largest amount of people are even more eager to volunteer, which I think shows the benefit of today's event. And others have become more aware of volunteering is or are now considering it, which again, I think is what we had in mind in preparing today's event. And from my side, just to wrap this up context-wise, I think we covered different elements. So you heard from Martin and from Victoria that volunteering is a chance to deal with something that you're passionate about, that's something that's close to your heart, and dedicate your time to this. It's not only about the monetary reward, but it's also intangible values and other sort of soft benefits to either your personal life or your future opportunities, whether career-wise or education-wise or something else. So I think that emphasized a good point today. Huko mentioned that it's a chance to learn Estonian language, and indeed, in many NGOs, when you volunteer and if you are there for a long enough time, you tend to pick up a few words of Estonian, or if you're taking a course in the university, it's a good chance to be together with other Estonians and practice the language. And in Annu's presentation, as I already mentioned, you saw that it's a chance actually to also maybe use the skills you've learned in school or elsewhere and try to put it in practice for the benefit of a certain organization. And from our first interview with Lauri, we also talked about that, some non-profit associations in Estonia, they employ people. So it can also always start that you volunteer first, you intern, and if this is a topic that really is close to your heart and you love working there and the people respect your added value, then it is a chance that the non-profit association might employ you. So as you know, non-profit associations, they are not allowed to earn profits, but often they run either on donations or project funding, or sometimes supported from the government. So in order to keep these organizations going, there are usually some people in the management who get a bit of salary. But of course, a lot of people do it as a side job and next to the regular job as well. But I think all these ideas from different presentations are the main elements of why we recommend for you to consider volunteering as well. And now I will share my screen to tell you what happens next. And please, Helena, you can also share our feedback link in the meantime. So basically, as I mentioned in the beginning, today's event was our first event in the Jumpstart Your Career event series. It was our sort of pilot online event during this COVID times and right before Christmas. But our project actually runs for another 1.5 years. So you can expect to hear more from us. The easiest way to hear more from us is to keep an eye on our website or go to our Facebook. But we will also be sharing information sometimes via university lists. So you might find something there. So there will be more events like today's. Hopefully, once the COVID situation changes, we can be back to meeting physically, and we might have other events where we introduce other voluntary organizations and volunteering, but we will also definitely organize events regarding employment and employers in different fields, because the general framework of this project that we're in is to help foreign students, and especially foreign students from non-EU countries, to find ways and contacts and get some tips on how to become employed during your studies or after your studies in Estonia. And as a part of this project, as I mentioned, we're also doing trainings. So there are 4-hour trainings where foreign students can, non-EU foreign students can join. And these trainings cover elements of job interviews, of CVs, and all these other motivation letters and all these other elements of applying to a job in Estonia. And these, again, will be continued February next year. So hopefully you will be able to attend these trainings as well. And the last thing I want to mention on this slide is this volunteers portal, Vabatahtlike Värav. So this is a portal where you can actually put yourself up as a volunteer, and you can see volunteering opportunities from other organizations. So today we had 5 speakers, 4 of which were related to a specific non-profit association or a foundation. But on this vabatahtlikud.ee website, you can find other opportunities to volunteer, and you can also set yourself up there to say that you would be willing to volunteer somewhere. So I hope this helps you. And from my side, I just want to thank you all for attending. Thank you for being us for these past nearly 2 hours. Thank you for your active participation with your questions. And of course, a great big thank you to Lauri, to Huko, to Victoria, to Anu and Martin once again for sharing your thoughts on volunteering and your experience in this and the opportunities that your organizations can provide and what you do. And as we are in the holiday season, I hope that this has also gotten you thinking about how you can give back to society, perhaps, because we are in this sort of a season of giving. And in any case, I wish you all a merry holiday season, and stay safe. So thank you for your attention today. And please don't forget to give us your feedback in the survey gizmo link that was shared by Helena. We will also send it to you directly. It greatly helps us to make our events even better in the future because we want to tailor them to your interests and needs as much as possible. So any advice we're thankful for it. So please use the survey gizmo link as well. And once again, thank you and have a nice evening.